everyone, and welcome to the Lightbringers podcast for Guild Wars 2. Today, we will be talking about stuff, as long as my mic's on. Yes, it was on. It's okay. We will be talking about the Realm of Dreams story, and nobody else's mic can be heard other than mine for the current moment, because that is, for once, something where... now you can hear them all.
You should turn the cameras on.
I'm turning the cameras on now, yeah.
Hello.
I'm going to show everyone your faces.
Good intro, Jebro. You got kind of distracted though. I don't know why. I don't know what happened there.
Oh,
Look at this. Oh my god, I gotta put up a better background than this.
wait, we talked about you doing that.
I know, I forgot.
Also, what were you, we were having conversations before this, and you said something, and you were like, and this might be, I don't think this is private, but like, you said you were like, an extra on something?
What?
You were an extra on a show?
No.
No?
Jebro, I don't know what conversation. What?
Is it Guild Wars 2?
Yes, it's Guild Wars 2.
I thought it
I
was
think
Love
I told you about
Island.
this before. First of all, I told you about this before, I
Did
think,
you?
that when I was a five-year-old, I was in a commercial for Boots.
Yes, that we did know about. I still have not been able to track that down, and I'm devastated.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
was dressed up
real?
as a-
Are
and
you
I was dressed
serious?
up as a penguin.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. And
Is that a penguin
is this
sign?
background? Yeah, that's a better background. There we go.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so there's that. But no, that's no. But you know, like in school, you go in school plays and stuff. And if you're ever like an extra in them, that's what I was talking about.
An extra in a school play?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh.
That's so sad.
Scenes got to be filled out somehow. You
Look,
got
in
big parts, you
Crichton
got small
Herald
parts.
is ready for
Quebec.
today. Crichton
In
Herald is like
Quebec.
There is
story
no
and
small
days.
part, only
In
small
Quebec.
actors.
Oh, hold on a second.
Sure.
In Quebec,
Oh, Boots isn't
High
that tall, so
school.
that makes sense.
Could you
Quebec,
tell us
high-
about something about what happens in Quebec?
in Quebec, high school goes from grade 7 to grade 11. So it's a 5-year spread, and you get in
Spread.
there when you're age like 11, 12, right?
Amazing.
And then you leave
Mhm.
when you're age like 16 or something like that. So
Into the wild.
the size of the person
Doesn't-
changes dramatically in those 5 years. So if you join a
You mean
school
like
play,
children growing? Yeah, that's
yes,
something that
exactly.
happens.
So when you join a school play, when you're in grade 7,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
you don't get the main roles.
Why?
What if you're like a phenomenal
That's
actor though?
ageist.
Like you're a
Oh, that's
prodigy.
a good point. Yeah, what if you're like Jonathan Taylor Thomas or something?
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
point, yeah.
Child prodigy.
I mean, not everyone can be the lead in Andre Aubert's Noah. I mean, what can I say? But anyway, carry on.
Wow, pretty cool phonics.
I really like my favorite part
Thank
of this
you.
whole thing, I think, though, is if we trace it back, is Boot specifically saying in Quebec, children get bigger as they grow older.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I don't know
as in-
how it is over where you live.
No, it's actually the reverse. In the United States, it's the reverse. So children get smaller as they get
Oh.
older. They kind of
They get
Benjamin Button.
Yeah, okay.
Get Benjamin, actual health condition.
Yes. Mhm.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, hold on. I gotta change my virtual background. I'm just gonna blur. There you go.
Okay, you
Wait a second. Changing.
blur
It was
a
a wa-
blank background? Are you serious? It's the same.
Hold on. What can I do? Hold on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We're the Lightbringers. We talk about Guild Wars 2, I promise. Sometimes. I'm Jebro Unity. I'm British. Now I am.
Oh wow, that was quite good. I look really good today. I'm just saying.
I have a lot of hair.
I missed hair. I
Glowing.
missed hair so much. I've got wireless headset. I've got a bed in the background. I just chill
Does
out
everybody
there.
here know about Rook's wireless headset? And then how when we're setting up for the show, and she has to go do something off screen, like I don't know, go to the washroom, make a sandwich.
Or make a
keeps
sandwich
her
in the
wireless-
washroom.
They happen concurrently sometimes, yeah. She keeps the wireless headsets on, so every once in a while, we make sure she could hear what we're saying to her while she's in the bathroom.
This is true. You all do that. You do, yeah. I like to just listen in. I don't want to miss a second, even pre-podcast. And sometimes it's quite fun,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some great
we
stuff.
encourage you sometimes, sometimes
we do,
you need
yeah.
a little
We actually do a
encouragement.
pre and
get a
post
bathroom shy.
podcast, which is actually better than the show. So
It's way better. We keep telling Jebro that he needs to record it, but he still hasn't, so.
maybe on the Patreon, everyone has to pay $70 each just to gain access. That's what it's about. It's all about the money, not really. Okay, so it really isn't.
I know it's not for us.
I don't care about
It's definitely not for us. Jebro pays
that.
us
Definitely not for
nothing.
them. I mean, I make at least $1 an episode.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
We've got a lot of episodes, Jebro, so we've done,
135 or something? No, maybe
If
more
I had a
than that.
nickel for every episode of Lightbringers I did, I'd technically be getting paid.
$1. Oh wait, no. I'm so confused. Today, I hope everyone's well as well. I believe it's also International Women's Day. Very cool.
It is.
As well.
Well, that's great.
I celebrate all the ladies. Do it. We should be doing it all the time. And also, Snow Crows were first to complete the latest CM mode strike as well, which was pretty epic.
I have been
Congrats,
watching
guys.
that every day.
Ever since you lot talked about it, same. I was watching it in my breaks, and I was like, I can't believe I actually was into it that much, honestly.
It's so
I was
good.
very
It's really
surprised.
exciting.
I was very surprised. I got it for other people, but I just, And then I was like, okay, well, they need to do that.
I feel really bad though, because there's like one guy on the Snow Crows that kept on getting called out. It's a real shame. There's a guy named Marcus on Snow Crows.
Oh, Marcus, yeah.
Yeah, Marcus, and sometimes if people are out of position or something, they'll be like, okay, get in position, you got to go here. But this guy, every single time, Marcus just kept on getting, Marcus, come on, get where you're supposed to be.
I missed what that was about originally, so I know that it was not about that. But
Is this about the markers?
What?
Markers?
I don't know.
Markers?
What?
Okay. No, you're right. It's probably a guy named Marcus.
Yeah.
Be nice to guys named Marcus in your life.
Anyway.
Here today on International
Congratulations to
Women's
them. We will be interviewing them next week. I think it's 2 people, the leaders of Snow Crows. So if you, I'm telling you this now because you may fade into obscurity by the end of the episode, which you shouldn't, because most people watch the beginning and the end because that's where the banter is. I'm not even lying. If I look
Please
at my,
stay around
if I
for
look at the
today.
stats,
There's going to be mucho spice, mucho
there's
spice. There's lots of salt with this one.
Actually, people do listen to these episodes like for quite a long time. they do enjoy it, especially when I don't chapter it. So I might not do that. No, I'm joking. I'll chapter it. Yes, we're going to be talking about the story. I'm going to have a little stream up in the background just as a reference point. It's kind of really selfishly for me, so I remember things, but also as an extra visual. If you're here live watching, thank you very much for joining us on twitch.tv/JebroUni on a Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific start-ish time. And also on Anchor or Spotify or YouTube or iTunes or whatever tunes and other things and stuff. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Make sure you chuck a like, comment, subscribe if you want to, and also chuck us a little review on whatever site you're on as well. That would be massively appreciated. We will talk about the story today with respect in a critical way, as we always do. But also, Fornax is here, so I can't. Sorry, that was a joke. They're just as respectful as we all are. We just. Yeah, I think they're learning a lot of lessons is the first thing I'll say about this. I think lessons being learnt is a very important thing that we talk about today, as well as also the fact that is this kind of working? Things to keep in mind. Is this kind of way of telling the story now working for them? and also kind of how they mix the story with visuals and actually the content in the game, because there's some I have some thoughts around that. I'm sure we all do. First of all, story-wise, does anyone want to add anything before we kind of just go straight in? Because I was just going to start with chapter, 14, the War Council or something. Let's go.
No, go for it.
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, just go. Let's do it.
Well, Paper says hello, and they say that she's missed us, because obviously it's been a while. It's like 7 years. And they're just basically updating us on the front line. So there's this never-ending, there's this battle going on in Nios, and which we're slowly traversing the map to get, to all the different people. Oh yeah, by the way, there will be spoilers. Like if I didn't mention that. Also, I didn't prep this scene apparently, so I'm just gonna move us back over because I messed that up. The video's there, but our faces are not. There we go. So I'm just gonna do that on the side over here, because at the moment there was 4 boots. Not that I don't want 4 boots, but
you only need 2.
Unless you
can't
have
afford
legs.
4 boots.
I can't afford 4 boots. That's true.
Yeah, you have to pay way too many nickels. There's no way.
So we've got Paper messaging us as per usual, and they kind of call us to go to Nios, as far as I remember. There we go. The moment of opportunity is come before us, and we are to seize it, as Paper says, in haunting, fun ways. And yeah, I'm going to pop the footage in the background in a minute, because I've got to fix that. But initially, this beginning part of the story, good, bad? How are we doing? I'm also trying to do this on the side, so I may not be making much sense right now.
I mean, it's interesting because I think this installment of story, it's mostly just kind of a bookend, right? I think we get the most at the beginning and at the end of this portion, this edition that we have. So I mean, I love the writing. I love Paitha's voice actress. I think some of the banter and dialogue coming in, as well as some of just establishing generally, like, hey, here we are, we're continuing where we kind of left off in the action. Like, I was really looking forward to all of that. I honestly don't even know, though. I mean, we'll go through each of the stories, beats, and things, but I mean, it's a very brief episode.
Just
so
like
while
the last one,
like while we meet some new characters and things like that, diving into the greater hunks of the narrative is a little bit difficult, because really they're just kind of little brief exchanges with a bit of setup, and then we kind of went into the actual action of the map. But excellent. I mean, it was good to be back with everybody.
Yes, you did very well in my very poor handoff there. I was like, I need to sort this out because it looks bad. My ADHD was going wild, just like, I must do it now. So in the Nios, yes, it's good to be back and see everyone. I think after a while, we haven't been doing story for like 3 months, right? So it's not been longer than that. I guess like sometimes I kind of grow tired of the endless like, hello mate, you're right, come join us kind of thing. I would love like a little, I don't know, like a recap or something, or like a little cinematic, like last time on Guild Wars 2 or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always that kind of, hello, come over here and we'll have a little meeting and then we'll do our shit. Like, I mean, I get it. It makes sense. I think it is every single time though, mostly, or it's a male. And I'm just like, it would just be cool, maybe. It's probably not necessary, but I would just something different might be nice. I don't know. I guess they introduced that whole headset thing for a reason, which is probably why they did that ages ago. I still remember when they did that.
Yeah, it is a good point though, because I think with this shift to a yearly expansion, right? more so than something like End of Dragons or one of the other expansions where we get this whole expansion just dropped, and the story as a result can kind of just be a throughput. So, one major thing of action can go straight into the other without having to kind of acknowledge that, at least upon initial release, there were interruptions in the flow of the narrative, right? But it's not to say that in previous expansions they still haven't made use of things like, even in one whole expansion, having people call you or something like that. They do. But it does bring up a good point that I can't help but wonder if they need to always do that.
Exactly.
If it is something, especially with this kind of new yearly cycle where we're going to have more of these segments kind of broken up, I do almost feel like, at least for me as a player, whether or not you're just like, I don't know, like we start the episode and, like you said, Jebro, a cutscene plays and it's like the camp, and they're seeing whatever's going on, and we're seeing the demon, the cryptis, interact, or some kind of scene like that where we're getting a sense of how they've established their foothold and things, and they're looking ahead to the second half of the map, and then like we just get our little journal prompt that says like it's probably like go reconvene with them at this place, and you follow your green marker. I don't know if we always need to have this thing where it is kind of like a interrupting the flow to have somebody call, or have this like hang off, or this feeling that the action has stopped and that they acknowledge it, because in the future players won't have the gap between it as they play through the story themselves. So
you're right. I didn't really think about it that way before. That I at first I was just thinking these all feel a lot shorter than they should feel. And
oh no, Discord dropped.
Oh, I think stream's also Discord looks like it's oh, hello?
It was just Discord.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It was just Discord. My connection's fine. Yeah. Stream's still going. Stream, we are still here. We are still here. It looks like it. I've got nothing coming up on my screen.
Okay.
We are still going. It was
it
just
looks
Discord.
like the stream's still there. Yeah, it looks like
it's
it's
just
still
here.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exciting.
That was ooh.
So yeah, it felt as if these episodes were too short, and it's odd because they're. I mean, they are pretty short, but it is because
it's all because they're short. Because they're short.
But I think you're right that contributing to that short feeling is the fact that because you're stopping for 2 months in between these episodes, as opposed to just having it all in one go, they are taking the time to reintroduce you and then ending on like a type of cliffhanger, reintroduce you, ending on a type of cliffhanger, like sort of episodic, like a television show or whatever. But television shows don't have to reintroduce you every time. And if
they do that though.
You mean like the 10-second last week
like
on
mid-season break?
Yeah, sometimes
they do recaps. There's a lot of
that's
TV
10 seconds out of
that's
10 seconds out of a 30-minute storyline, let's say, rather than 1 out of 3 instances.
Yeah.
So I think that is contributing to it feeling a little more stilted and a little bit more short each episode for sure, and not as meaty.
I mean, it is a considerable amount of time when you look at the actual story itself, like you're saying, and you come in and they're like, yes, you've made it back. It's been a while. We've been here doing the thing for blah, blah, blah. Like, as opposed to just actually showing you a scene of the camp and how people are interacting. And I think even that would just give you more of a sense of the characters, because I think that's something too with this Nyos portion that has felt just a little bit shakier, because all of our inner Nyos stuff has taken place in these short episodes, as it were. We had all the Wizard Tower characters established to us very well in the initial portion of the story. But here we are,
rather than the first.
like that big first drop. But like in the portions that we've had since then with Nyos, we've been introduced to a whole other cast of characters that are Cryptis here, but who, other than Patha, I am sometimes at a loss, as I'm like, wait, that's the right-hand man kind of guy, but what's his deal? And who is this person talking to me? I feel like I recognize the name, but who is, like...
I
So
mean,
here's-
Ramses is the best character and is the only one that actually matters. So that's fine.
So
Ramses is the best.
think of this, for example. End of Dragons was 18 episodes, 18 story chapters long. We're currently at 16 story chapters for Secrets of the Obscure.
Yeah.
The story feels very different.
It's gonna be though, because of. So think about this, right? So before, when we had an expansion dropped, story enclosed inside, and there was how many episodes, how many chapters were there in just the release of the actual End of Dragons? You saying 18 dropped at once, right?
No, I think that even less, because I think there is some later on with following up on,
because they followed up with
stuff.
that, right? Yeah, because they said they're going to do same story, but it's still Living World technically, right? It was still Living World then. So remember, we don't have Living World right now. So this was going to be more, but it's still not as many as we would have had with an expansion and then the Living World following it. So we've actually got we're actually generally getting less story, probably, I would say, overall.
You know, it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting hearing both of these comparisons, because I agree with you, Boots, in the sense that when we look at it from like the actual journal entry standpoint, right? I think we're going to come in at around the same amount of episodes.
Yeah, probably.
It will be.
But it does feel different. And yet there are some similarities. Like, I remember as we discussed End of Dragons, some of the areas in the middle of the game were the ones that we or in the middle of the expansion, were the ones that we kind of felt lacked some extra narrative support, things like Echo Vault, and those areas. However, those did have really big, lush, multi-dimensional, intricate maps. And like Echo Vault itself is a huge map with a lot of layers and the mini dungeons and all kinds of stuff. Even if we didn't necessarily get quite as much actual story, like visual story or cinematic story in those bits, like really establishing the different factions and really, taking us more into Anka's push into the region and other things like that. So both kind of suffer a bit of that narrative pacing where we get a little thin in the middle, but at the same time, like, the map maybe makes a difference in this, because the map is cool, and I actually really like the Internios map, but I don't know if it is as substantial as the End of Dragons maps.
I don't think any of them are.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, I just actually will make that statement. I don't think any of them are at all.
But I also think that if you compare this to something like Living Season 4, for example, I think all of the installments of Living Season 4 were more robust across the board than these two middle segments of this one have been. And that point that was brought up about, again, because we're going to a yearly expansion cycle, everything will be a bit more than Living Seasons, feels like maybe at least for these 2 episodes in the middle, while they've still delivered a lot of things I like, I can feel that dip where we're almost getting more towards like end of Iceberg Saga kind of erraticness, as opposed to something more throughput like Living Season 4. I don't know.
How about Crying Herald? How about you? Like, want to pipe in on this a bit?
So
I agree with everybody about the strangeness.
The side with the sigh. No. It's okay. It's okay. I interrupted. Continue. It was just okay. Funny. That's all.
That was involuntary. I apologize. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to hold it back. I agree about the story episodes beginning with the missive or with the messaging surface that we have. I don't like it. I don't feel immersed in the story. I feel like I'm on a pager. I'm like texting. Oh God, it's work again. Okay. And I'm like texting into work. Yeah, I'll be there. And it's like, I would much rather that we actually have have to go to the place. If you remember when the game first started, the reason that we don't have a traditional quest system in this game is because they wanted it to be immersive. They wanted you to be wandering around the world and things to be happening and things to be dynamic. And that was the whole ethos around the dynamic events. Sure. And it's a great idea, right? Yeah. And there is certainly a place for that in modern Guild Wars. I genuinely think so. And I feel like we've always been requesting a more traditional quest system. But in this instance, I feel like they've taken the kind of quality of life aspect of it for us as players too far. We should be on the map. We should go here and this will happen. I feel completely detached from what's happening in Naos. We had this impenetrable mist at the start of the expansion, of this particular portion of the expansion, an impenetrable mist that if we walked into it, we died or we were kicked back. It disappeared and there was nothing, nothing said about it. Yeah. There was no cutscene. There was no explanation. No, it's just better now. It's just gone.
Yeah, it's why? It's too clearly a game halting mechanic.
There was no simple. There wasn't even a basic explanation. Like all of a sudden, there's like, I mean, I get like you're pushing forward for a map, but it's like, you know. It's like imagine World War II and not talking about how we actually got through the front, like, you know, and you just start off somewhere further than that, and it's just like that.
Basically, what we're talking about here is altogether we're saying that the story is suffering because of the constraints put on it, which are
time.
No, on this. So? Well, yeah, that is a constraint that's always on this, but the constraint I'm talking about is it needing to be episodic, released at certain times, and the amount they could put into those episodes.
So time.
It doesn't have to be this way. I mean, I take it that they knew how they were going to border off and bound off this area for us. Yeah. So right at the start, they could have had us working towards all these pushes, all these events could be leading to us decaying the barrier so that we can then push forward. And it doesn't have to be some super, there just has to be like, it could be like a giant map with a bloody bar going off at the top. It doesn't matter. As long as there's something logical that we're working towards, and then we get the payoff. We get a nice cutscene. We get some astral wards coming in and doing some wispy magic and stuff.
That would have been cool if
you like. At the end of the last episode, what was it? It was that we beat the lady, and then they said something like, "So the mist is here. Oh yeah, but it's going to dissipate eventually." Right?
That's I can't remember what they said. I like Fornax. I like Fornax's idea, and you could have seen the bar until the episode comes, and like you have that bar, and you can see it. And like the community has to destroy it or something. That could be like a big community event. We could go on rewards for like getting the fence down and stuff. I don't know. Burning it down, doing events. Obviously, like it would have been easier. It would have just be done by launch. But like there could have been something fun done with that. But so what I feel,
it could be like a big reward for everybody as well. Just thinking about that. I mean, you think about like the opening of Anchorage. I'm like boomer gamer here. The opening of Anchorage in World of Warcraft was this massive world event where everyone had to give a massive amount of resources to get the map open, to open the thing, and it was a huge thing, and the community was so kind of invested in it, and it was amazing because we felt like it was reward, it was effort rewarded. And it just doesn't, I don't want to feel disconnected.
I completely agree with all your points about how this needs to flow and how the narrative maybe has not felt as much like connected into the map and the reflection of that and the story they've been able to support within these middle patches. I love the idea. I mean, I love the idea of something like a huge world effort, group effort where we're trying to like corrode a thing. I don't know if long-term, again, that would necessarily suffice, given the fact that, like, again, we're going to end up in a living season 1 situation, or people are going to just miss that activity at some point. I mean, I think that there's absolutely nothing to say that you couldn't just have a cutscene that still serves that, or even if, like, you're engaging your current player base to kind of play into this time frame. and then you have a cutscene that's like, hey, we made it through. In the future, you could always just, as long as you structured it right,
I mean, the World
you
of
can
Warcraft
put that
event just
cutscene
ended.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying from like a narrative point of view as you're playing through, and if you're trying to set this thing up like we can't break through until X, Y, or Z.
It just
in
doesn't
the story.
exist. Yeah, it just doesn't exist for the player, does it? I guess until they break.
So it feels like they're trying to tie the story to the map by having that middle section in both the last episode and the last release and this release, which they make you do events on the maps for a certain period of time. And I don't know. I mean, I did them as fast as I could. I think it took me a half an hour, something like that.
We're not quite there yet, but
it's they did either. I didn't, unfortunately. I didn't pay enough attention to the events on the map and if there's story, like interesting story tied to them, besides obviously the map meta.
Oh, absolutely. The story and the actual events in the map are wicked. Okay. Especially with the villagers. Like with the villagers and stuff, there's like 3 or 4 events with them in. They're great. Like the little Endosura engineer in the northwest. So good.
That's probably one of the reasons I didn't get enough out of the story, is that it sounds like they're trying to make the map stories part of the story by making you do the map events,
which is what they've tried to do. I think throughout the game. I just wasn't paying
enough attention. I was just trying to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like loads of credit to I think there's a disconnect between the map and the story here. Like it feels like 2 teams almost. I'm not sure how that works. Obviously, but there's a different team creating the map than there's to creating the story, right? There just must be. And like people are going to obviously cross over and they communicate, but there is kind of like there feels like a disconnect sometimes about how the story works in the visual part of the game and how that relates to each other. And I think we definitely saw that during the story, and we're going to come across that with some great examples of that as well. I get what Rook's saying actually now as well, in terms of like starting it from where they started. So like, this is where this kind of work they do with maps and revealing it over time, I don't think works very well. Because if you do that, like Rook's saying, as well as Fornax, you're gonna miss, if you're a new player and you're playing through it and it's released, you're getting kind of the reveal of the map. So we missed the kind of like narrative of why is it suddenly there now? Why couldn't we go there before?
That's a good
question.
Whereas
the new player like comes in, an old like who's not witnessing with the patch, and they just see the maps open, right? So they have to do that. But so they can't actually meet the expectations of both players at all. So if they just had one map and then another map and then another map and just had them as smaller maps, that would make it work better, because you could just go through an instance which could be the Mist, for example, and then that would be the next map. So like you could avoid some of this stuff, because I actually don't think I like kind of the map reveal sometimes. And I think they did it well with Drizzlewood, because that was a map meta, which meant you would have to literally progress across the map, right? And that made sense. There was like this big epic fight, and then it was ended. But like with these maps, I don't feel like it works.
I think there's a more noticeable. It feels like there's a more noticeable disconnect between the story stuff and the events and things. And I don't mind at all that they are, again, like giving us moments to direct more strongly to the map, because environmental storytelling is one of Guild Wars 2's strong suits, right? All of the things that you can discover in maps, the event chains, the hidden stuff, like all that stuff is as much a part of the story as any of the major story beats. So in a sense, I do think that in this release and last couple of releases, they've been trying to really build in those moments where, again, they're encouraging you out. They're encouraging you out to the world. So like in these, this episode and the one prior to it, in theory, the things I would be looking to have supported in these events would be the struggle against Eparch, discovery and, understanding of Nyos, learning about the Cryptus, building our forces, having perhaps reveals or revelations about Paitha or some of the other major characters that we might encounter that are going to be of note in these regions. Something about the history of the realm of dreams. And those things are sprinkled throughout, but I don't know if I think that it tells as strong of a narrative story as something like the Drizzlewood map, where, you would like literally have these major characters that, various events play into and, Ryland's council and...
I think the reason why there's that difference is how they deliver it to you in the story, in the actual storyline. And in Drizzlewood, they point you to go to certain areas of the map and do these things. In this, you have a green bar that says do events in this area, do events in this area. And so in my case, for example, who just wanted to progress that green bar and get to the next instance, I didn't get much story from the map because I just went into the trail end of some events and finished it not knowing what's going on. Went into the trail end of some other events and finished it not knowing what's going on. So
I had the same experience, honestly, on these maps. And I enjoyed some of the smaller events, but some of them also I found just a little bit difficult if I was just solo and there's a ton of turrets firing at me and all kinds of stuff. Or they felt like they were more directed to be a part of the specific meta. So I would just jump to wherever the meta currently was and kind of that would just blast. I agree. I think there was a big disconnect for me in that, in these episodes, and that I didn't come out of the world event experiences feeling as though, oh, I'm so glad I discovered all of this stuff that was hidden in here in layers, which I did feel in all of the End of Dragon maps. I even felt from portions of the Icebird Saga. I thought a lot of the maps in Icebird Saga had a lot of great depth and a lot of really interesting things in them that you could find. So it was, it's been a little strange in these two episodes because I like the content. I like the place we are. I love the setup of all the things we're doing. I love the concept of it. I think it's so good and it's so strong, and the writing has some incredible bangers. There are lines that come out or things that Paitha said or and I'm like, wow, that's an incredible line. This is amazing. Really well written.
And their deliveries of all the voice actors are incredible.
Yes. They're so good. But then there are these big gaps where I do feel like, having had last episode and this episode now, I don't necessarily know if I think the narrative came together as strongly as it could have. I feel like this is a big weak spot in Nyos and the Cryptus and things like that. It's still enjoyable. It's still interesting. But it definitely feels like
I'll do it and then let's move on.
Yeah. Good to move on.
I'm not really invested.
Exactly.
Because
the green bars felt much more just like filler padding this time around, and more we'll just get into a bunch of events, and it didn't, like you said, Boots, it didn't feel directed. The first one, even where they were just look around, and I was like, am I just scoping out the situation? Has anything changed? Am I going to get dialogue from Paitha that's giving me updates about the region and how it's been affected? And I was like, no, I'm just doing the same events from the last update. Oh, but now we get a little more story. Okay, but now I'm going to do events on the other side of the map, and then I'm going to do more, and then I'm going to loop back around. It wasn't unpleasant, but again, I don't know if it had as much breadth to it as I was really hoping.
Should we go through? Let's get to these points, and then we can talk about it more as well. And you can even see how long it takes me to do them if you want. Probably takes me a little bit longer than most people. But in this part,
you know what it feels like?
Yes.
It feels like it's a mile wide and an inch deep. It feels like the concept is this massive scope and scale, and you've got these Greek influences with all the different names of Paitha and Ceres and even Eparch. These are all heavily grounded in Greek mythology. Their names mean things. Pathos is the goddess of persuasion, both and manipulation, both sexual and political. Ceres is about winning. Demos is about fear. These are the personifications. Eparch is literally means leader and ruler. Liberus The queen is literally is either hubris, which is the arrogance of the king, or it's associated with the mouth. So she could literally be the mouthpiece of Eparch, and they've got all this deep, interesting story and lore linked to kind of this Greek mythos, which you see in the screen art that we have when we come in. But it just feels like they've had these high ideas and they've got these deeply interesting characters who I would love to explore, but we get the clip notes version, we get the abbreviated, the synopsis, rather than the characters, and it's just.
I keep hearing that. I keep hearing that comparison, the Cliff Notes part, and I'm like, yeah, I remember doing that in English a lot because I couldn't be asked to read things, and I was just like, oh, the Cliff Notes have got to be around somewhere. Let's go with that. There's my essay. I didn't cheat in school, don't worry. I just
you did
use them a lot. We didn't have like ChatGPT either. Like, kids can do way more things than us.
You would use ChatGPT in school if you had it back then.
If I had it back then, probably, yeah. Because I'm smart. That's why.
Can I just say that this isn't a criticism of the writers, by the way. This is not a criticism of the writers. I love that the world that they've set up. I love that the story that we got in the main body of the expansion, which is the story leading up to Naos. Okay, I really liked that. It has a lot of depth and a lot of interesting development. But this is more of a critique of how they have integrated the story that they've written into the game itself. And I think that the privilege has been given to gameplay and to possibly future progression and the replayability of Naos, because in 5 years' time, there won't be the myths, as you said, so someone could just play through it and it will feel seamless. And maybe that's the experience we should be having, but because we're here real time, we're having to wait. That's my thought.
That's
actually interesting that this is a situation where it might feel more seamless in the future when and it also feels a little bit like Icebrood Saga in depth right now in the amount of story we're getting. But then with Icebrood Saga, it's actually worse to play through it now because of the way they went with DRMs. Because episodically you could play DRM and it's okay.
I don't have to do that again.
It's interesting to me because I think if they had not put in the kind of leave things to us for now, come back later sort of beats, I think it would be really seamless. If it was literally just like, we're making our push into Naos, here we go, blah, blah, blah. We defeat this guy at the end of the meta for the first half. And then, it was just sort of actually kind of like a cliffhanger. And then you come back into the action or whatever it is, narratively, again, with that kind of sense of suspension of time disbelief, I guess, considering that at some point people won't have to wait months to play this. It'll just, again, be the quests they just go through in their log. I think it would be seamless. I think that some of it might still have some of those weird little bumps, though. Since they did make a deal of the fog, I don't know if you play through now. I haven't played through it seamlessly. So I don't know if you go in now and you're playing through it. Yeah, does it feel as though that fog is even a thing? Is it even there? Is the whole map available to you right from the get-go? I'm not sure. And that might dictate some of just not having acknowledged it, considering that
I have no idea if that's the case. I asked this question.
I'm gonna go do it right now. You guys keep talking.
On a new character or something?
No, I'm just gonna replay the original story, right?
Sure, I guess so.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess it might, yeah.
If you're doing a different character, it might be even. If anyone played it late, let us know in the chat as well. I do want to hitch through to the actual story itself,
please do.
So we can talk about it because we're going to be going all day otherwise. And not that we can't do that. So we meet an old friend. Galrath is here. Hello, Galrath, you bloody legend. And I was so hopeful that Galrath was going to be very much involved. I mean, he kind of is. But what we're trying to do is, we know our forces are spread thin. We need another commander. We need another someone to help us out. So that's kind of what we're doing for a lot of this story, right? We are.
I'm so sorry, Jebro, but can I take one really fast second just to touch on something right before this? No. I just want to touch on something right before this. Can I just say that one thing about the initial story beat before we decide to go actually pursue Alreth that really I was like, what? About was the fact that if you've done the achievements and other things, right, you learn about the relationship and the complexities therein between oh, I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name right now. The Daddy Norn and his daughter.
Yeah. We can see
Frode.
Frode, yes. Frode and Arena, right? So one story moment that I really felt I was baffled not to get more about was them being reunited.
See, that's right. Yeah, this hasn't happened yet. We're getting to that part.
I thought we had
No. We're just at the start. We're right there. Okay. We're right there. But you make an excellent point, because I forget things all the time and I have to remind myself. I thought I'd actually just missed it. So I am very glad that you said that, because now I'm like, okay, good. Because that kind of sucks. Because I thought, unless it just happened because they've been there for a bit, right? The connection, the portals have been, they can get there and everything else, right? But yeah, it's so true.
At the same time, again, if you're setting up a narrative, right, and you want there to be like consistency and payoff and foundations and growth for characters, you have to show it. you have to write it. And I really enjoyed the collections and things that would give you more information about them at the end of the first major installment, where you would learn more about that relationship and what it meant. It gave me stakes for them coming back to this reunion. I hoped that maybe there would be something there, an acknowledgement, even if it was that there was friction between them, or, he talks a bit about her mother and like how, she reminds him of her and things like that. But we know from the greater context, if you've done those story journals, that there's much more in the relationship between them. And with Arena being essentially our point lead here in this area, I would have really loved to see her get a bit more filling out in the actual immersive narrative. And I even followed them all the way up the stairs to see if they had like a bit of dialogue, just the two of them off to the side in that story instance that might give them some more stuff. And there was nothing between them, nothing about how they felt coming back together, how he had felt thinking he might have lost her, how she felt in the separation given that he has been absent in other areas of her life before she joined the Order. And it was just one of those moments where I was very much like, this feels very strange that we have both of these. Yeah,
they're saving all of that for at the end of the last episode, where all the characters are standing and with a little thing above their head.
Maybe.
No, that's crap. That's crap. That's crap. That's bollocks. That doesn't make it. I know you're just joking, but like that's the impact. That's the impact of the story, isn't it? They come from the pool. Hey, what's up, kids? It's been so long since I've seen you. Thank God. Hugs, kisses, all the things. I missed you so much. Deep and meaningful. Reunited, but they kind of just say hello. And maybe like their relationship is just strained and they kind of feel estranged. I don't know. But like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. It's just kind of odd. I can understand them, like, we're the commander, this is like a work thing. And I can understand them putting up a front when they first like, hi, how you doing?
That's amazing.
And then as they're in private, well, it is a work thing, isn't it?
I mean, I guess,
right?
well, they're being professional, but still, if you've not seen someone for like ages,
but we get nothing as they're wandering off up the stairs.
They're very stoic, though, Norns.
They are very stoic.
What?
But I mean,
you've got Bram.
Except Bram. Everybody
Come on, man.
No. Fornex was on her way. She was describing her journey, her discussion, her foundational point.
Yeah.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah. Please.
So I can understand them being quite stoic and professional when they first meet up. All the soldiers are there, they're lining in. But as they're walking up the stairs, like Rook said, there's no personal moment. There's no, oh, Dad, it's been hard, but we're pulling it together, and you're these people in my life. And there's no like context of how you would actually speak to your father. It's very everything is kind of pushing you out of the kind of fictive dream that they're trying to create, and it's sad. It's sad because all the material is there that writers have done all the groundwork. We can have all this, but it's not in there, and I don't understand. Well, I guess choices have been made, right?
Yeah, but I mean, again, I think it just goes to show that there are gaps in these portions of the story, that the writing is all the foundational stuff is there. Like we're saying, the setup is brilliant. The character dynamics and interplay and everything else is all there. It's just that we aren't actually getting it in the written story that is in front of us to witness and participate in, because this also feels like it should be a huge moment for the Wizards. This, like, the start of this episode is these two sides actively and actually pushing into the realm that otherwise has been the one that's just been launching these assaults, right? This is the Cryptus bringing people into their realm. This is the Wizards agreeing tentatively, albeit with some reservations, but to try and help here as a support and as an alliance in some way with, for the first time in all of their history, as far as we know, with the Cryptus. And Arena is obviously playing a major pivotal functioning role within that, in that she is somebody who has witnessed them, who owes her life to them, and has at least been on the end of a benevolent, seemingly merciful side of the Cryptus. So again, it's very weird because, like, while we do get called in and we get briefed, I think that the actual emotional impact, whether or not Norns are stoic, whether or not they're, in a business moment, whatever it is, I think the actual emotional impact of the entire setup and premise of this situation and scenario, which is there and it's so great, this scene does not do it full justice, perhaps, is the way to put it. It feels more like a convenient starting point for now you will go on the map and do the thing, but I don't think that it really greater serves the coming together of those important emotive beats in the expansion, the first steps of the Wizards into Nyos, the realm of dreams, their reactions, Arena and Frode's being reunited, the tension underlying both of the factions, the hostility of the region. Like, there's so much in it that's great, but that I think this scene could have been drafted entirely differently and would have communicated a lot better.
Okay, I want to push us forward a bit more because we're literally not even past the first bit of this act or chapter. I'm gonna direct us a little bit, and I hope maybe we can mix it in. And also, some of that is right here as well. So let's think about the first bit. For basically, we're trying to get Nephis on our side, who is a big general. And is not kind of really on anyone's side right now, it feels like. Epart kind of like said, did he didn't remove him. It's still like a general of his forces or something, but he's still like kind of...
He's been politically sidelined.
That's right, yes. That's a better way of putting it. And he's still got his army, but loads of people are loyal to him, so they're basically going to try and get him on their side. So this stuff happens with Frode and Arena, but you do talk to Arena here, and you actually ask about the fact, like, why didn't you go back? And they're like, well, I'm staying to make sure everything's okay here. So you get kind of an idea that there might be something else to this, and maybe there's a really good reason they didn't actually go back other than just this, because I don't think this was enough. I'm wondering if there's something else underneath all of this, the reason why they're kind of not cold, like, the stoicism, I get it, but like they're not as emotive as maybe we would have liked, because I wonder if something else happened. You never know, but it could be maybe trying to cope with the fact that it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but like, because sometimes that's just the way it is. Go on, Vonix.
Can I say something about?
Sure.
So right, thank you. Sorry.
You're okay.
So they talk about this great general. Where's the cutscene? Where's the cutscene showing him leading the Cryptus army? Where's the cutscene of all these people? Where's our introductory quest where we meet Ramesses for the first time, so that we can see who he is in the context and how he met up with Paether again? when did they save Arina's life? Why weren't we doing that? Why weren't we with Paitha saving Arin's life so that we can understand why she's at the place and how they hid and where's that story?
Do I tell you where it is? It's lost to time, Fornex. They don't have enough time for it. They just don't. And this is why this release schedule is going to kick them in the ass. Or they're going to have to tell us shorter stories because there's too much. I think there's too much to tell. In the time
so just to let you know, I just checked, and on a new character, you could get to Innernaeus now through the portal in Wizard's Tower whenever you want, without having done the story, and you could explore all the map that's available now. There's no fog except for past the next area.
Makes sense.
So that's why.
And
because it's not really part of the story. It's just a timing.
The fog is just it's not part of the story. It's just a mechanic to make you not see the rest of the map.
Fornex, do you agree with that, Fornex, at all? Like, they just probably don't have enough time to do all of this. So, like, I mean, I'm not saying that's a good enough excuse to not do the things they're doing, but do you think they kind of open themselves up to having these kind of holes and things they're not doing because of time restrictions?
I mean,
and would you prefer, like, it told over a longer amount of time to give it full justice and not have an expansion every year? And that's not like a good or a bad thing, by the way.
I think that they have to... Okay, how can I put this? So, as I said before, in terms of like bang for your buck, I think we get a lot of bang for our buck with this expansion. I think that it is great. I think the story we get in the initial part is great. I'm going to keep saying that because it is. It's a fully fledged, interesting, new addition to the world, which pads out a lot, explains a lot. It's great. They said, and you will be getting a full story arc, a full-fledged second story that's associated with the first one, and we're not getting that. With much love and respect, we're not getting that. And I think... And if you can't do it with gameplay, if you want the narrative to be cohesive, you need to do it through cutscenes.
Yeah.
So 14 does this all the time. There's lots of things happening. There's lots of things they need to explain. They will have long extended. They'll even tell you, you need to sit down, have a cup of tea, put your feet up, because this is going to take some time, darling. And then you're like, okay, I'm in it. And if you're not interested in that, there is a skip button right there.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can go through the story and you can watch, and they can take you on the narrative journey that they need to do, and they can do it through machinima, basically puppeteering the characters on screen. They can do it through the beautiful kind of arty-farty stuff we used to get at the beginning of the game, which I loved, right? But you need if you want people to care about the narrative, then you have to, and you want people to feel like it's cohesive, and you don't want people to like bounce off the story. You have to give them something. So, something.
I agree.
Please.
I think we, like, Fornex and I think all of us here feel pretty much the exact same. So really there's not, like, a lot of what you said, I can't rephrase any better. I mean, I agree 100% that, like, there needs to be just some more of it in a lot of regards. But I mean, also just a lot of the details you were sharing, right? I mean, but we did get an incredible first portion. And like you brought up, I think there was a full narrative. It was a satisfying experience. And so when you pose the question, Jebro, there's just not enough time. I love this team and I love what they create. And again, like we've said over and over and over again, we've more than gotten our money's worth for what they charged us for this expansion already, let alone without the second half that's coming. So
absolutely.
I don't want this to be super harsh, but I had a moment where when you said that there's just not enough time, I went, well, then where is there ever enough? Because if they can't do it on a paced out yearly release expansion, if they can't do expansions given anywhere from 2 to 6 years, if they can't do consistency across the board for various releases while also introducing a robust amount of content to the game that satisfies the player base across a variety of different content types, then where is there ever the time? Like this new expansion format was supposed to provide the time, right? Having an expansion that's told over the course of a year and that's paced out without them having to also work on another expansion and a living season and was supposed to create more, although of course they're working ahead, we know this, but like it was supposed to create more of a workflow for them where they could focus on and deliver the story in these, you know, hunks without having to try to make the team threadbare working on a ton of stuff and stuff that wouldn't see the game hitting the game for years. So all of this to say, I still think this is a great expansion, and I still think it has a lot of amazing stuff. I think there is something very much to be said about these middle episodes. Does this mean that maybe they do one map in one of these episodes, and that map is either an auxiliary to the story or whatever, and it has a ton of new content, it has all sorts of stuff, it has new meta, it has all this dynamic content gameplay, and that's kind of like one of the releases of these middle episodes. And then the other release of the middle episodes is a more story heavy one that has maybe a feature tied to it, but more of it is like a cinematic narrative with like robust stuff that maybe sets up or supports whatever that map is, as opposed to trying to shoehorn the story format into part 1, part 2 map for every single expansion. Maybe if they focused more on not having to tie to the map, not having to direct, you know, like we wouldn't get this kind of weird formatting issue where there are these little discrepancies or things feel a little bit threadbare on either side. Maybe there's just a way that they divvy this up. I mean, with ESO, for example, with their yearly expansion cycles, they do 2 major story beats, part A, part B, and like that's it. And then you get like the additional dungeon stuff, you get some other things. But I never felt coming through those hunks like, you know, oh, part 1 or part 2 was not worth playing. They always were super robust and there was so much stuff to do on the map and so many things and huge hunks of story. And then sure, you got a bit of a smattering of content outside of that. But I mean, Guild Wars 2 is trying to do these 2 big portions with these 2 smaller portions. And I wonder if there's a way, as they look back on this year, to redistribute some of this so that the middle bit just feels awkward. I think that's the summary as I wave my hands around and I like parse my thoughts. It just feels kind of awkward.
Can I just bring a point to what Kroof said in the chat, which actually kind of is bang on. And then they said, I think for a one-shot story, they painted, I can't see that big because it's trying to make a reply to it.
Painted brought a picture and couldn't paint the details with the scope of time.
I do think this is a schedule that could work with proper scope planning. It's that, like, the thing is that, and what you're saying is, I feel is really bang on as well, Rick. Like, you're talking about, like, there is never enough time and everything else. I think here, they don't really understand, they haven't got the scope or the idea of, like, we can't do what we did before over the time we do, so we need to narrow it down a little bit more to really tell that one story very well, and then have these characters on the side that we investigate, but we don't have as many, because if you think about how many characters there are in this story, like you were saying, you don't remember the names of some of the characters, and I'm like, I know 4 names, maybe. Like if you, like this is one of the expansions where, unfortunately, I don't really care about most of the people in it, and it's unfortunate. And I'm just being honest. It's just my personal, authentic, genuine opinion. I care about the villagers in Nyos more than I care about some of the main characters, and that's because they have character. You go into the events, they're talking to each other, they're silly, they're funny, they want to eat, they're struggling against the world that Epoch's creating around them.
Yeah, why aren't we like doing stuff with Dagda and like the other characters that we kind of...
I mean, they're just not there. I'm just like, I mean, I guess they're hanging out doing something else, but there's so many people.
Well, yeah, it's because we're in Nyos now, right?
Know,
so the idea,
but...
but
this comes out during the story as well. Like they don't want to supply.
Right?
No, but they don't want to supply. So they don't want to supply the wizards for reinforcements until Payfar has proved that they are trustworthy, so they're not sending anyone to Nias at the moment.
Yeah,
That's the
but we're
story.
Just getting more anyway.
But that's the reasoning, right?
Isgaran wants them to die. Isgaran wants them to die.
Yeah,
the thing is, yeah. The thing is that
look at these guys. I'm sorry. Look at the screen. Okay, look at these little guys. All right.
I know, the thing is that I think this could work, but it doesn't work with the breadth of these two middle episodes. Like what Kroof was saying, for a one-shot story, they painted too broad of a picture. I think in particular, this section of the narrative just feels a little bit difficult because the introduction to Nios, right? I can see a story format in my head in which we meet the wizards, we learn about them at the tower, we understand their stakes, we learn about them individually, we learn about what they've been fighting against. Then we're cut off, we're put in Nios, we have this other side, the opposite faction, if you will. We learn about what they've been struggling against. We learn about their leadership. We learn about their oppression. We learn about a possibility of something different for them. We grow attached. We are in a world unfamiliar to us that in many ways seems hostile and the stuff of nightmares given our experience of demons in the world, right? But then we learn something different. Then in a third act, we bring both sides together. We have understanding. We facilitate a bridge. We see the characters that we've come to know on either side interacting, engaging, coming into conflict, finding resolution. In theory, it works. But given the breadth of this middle section, it does not work because we don't ever get the full establishment of this side. Maybe we will in this big meaty second half, but to go with go ahead.
Okay.
Fornex disagrees.
Okay.
It's popped up. It's appeared.
What happened?
Okay, it's gonna be shots fired
there was
now.
a shot fired.
So
thank you, Brimstone.
Wait, you're about to shoot shots, or
I'm good. So I think that it's not that you're wrong. It's not happening.
Oh, are you sure?
So we're on the map.
Yeah.
Where is the big bad oppressing everybody? Everybody just looks sad. Where is he?
Where is this guy? Yeah.
Because
Where
we're
is
pushing.
he? He's not here.
Right. Okay. Well, they were cryptid forces.
Story. He seems like a chill dude.
Here's the weird thing, though. Right? And it's one of the things that I think narratively is the most interesting about Nios and the most underserved by the narrative. Right? Supposedly, Nios is alive. Supposedly this realm is living. Like when you're going around and you are like doing the little weapon things and it talks about how the land itself rises up, it is living, it is breathing. When you cleanse these beacons, these mysterious beacons that nobody knows about, but that like Eparch apparently thinks don't have anything to do with anything, but then you see that strangely enough, as they're being cleansed, more and more of them are echoing with this same resonance. When you know that the cryptids have existed all the way back to the dawning of humanity arriving in Tyria in this state that is not their own, but that seems to be corrupted by Eparch. When you see the way that the world itself is like, it has this malignance, this growth through it, this cancerous almost mutation of what it is. That is Eparch's oppression. But I agree with you 10,000% Fornax in that where do we see this connected, right? Where do we see it really illustrated? Where do we witness what it means for this land to be alive? Maybe we get some cute little villager stuff. Maybe we get some areas where we're seeing the fighting. But like, where do we genuinely see that these entities are suffering from a malignance that has corrupted and corroded the very essence of the world they themselves are intrinsically tied to, and that is a living, beating organism, which is a fascinating idea, and it's so cool, and I love it. Like, I really love it.
It's an extra thing they couldn't delve into, right?
Yes, like, we needed a whole section of Nios that was the length and meat and breadth of the first release of... You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so why isn't the map telling the same story? Why?
Well, that's a good question.
Why?
It's time.
So we had
it comes down to
Hater.
time.
Well, no, but they've made choices. They've made choices because they're events. So we could have had Hater and the area named after her being a presence on the map. She could have been fucking our shit up all the way through. We could have actually wanted to murder this biatch at the end of it and been like happily dancing on her grave if they'd have made her a villain on the map that was actually a threat and a presence.
Do you think there's too many villains though as well at the same time? Like there's too many main characters on our side. Is there too many villains on the other side to make it you really care that there's the lead?
I think they just need to make better time of how they introduce them, because I felt like the cast of the Wizard, I had the ability to connect with them and understand them through the metas, through the story, but I haven't felt quite the same here. Yeah.
I think they should have done what they did with Arthas in Wrath of the Lich King. Made him the asshole at the center of all asshole behavior. He wasn't the monster on the hill who was looming over everything quietly. He was in your business, up your shit, and you wanted to kill him at the end. You hated him because you'd watched him systematically murder and corrupt.
And you were him.
I'm glad that we finally got to see Epark now. We finally got to see Epark at the end of this episode, and I think there's only one episode left.
There's the final big installment.
Or not episode,
we've finally seen Epark, and honestly, the way he's introduced, I have no ill feeling towards him. Really, it sounds like we just fucked up his shit, and he's like, and and his queen sacrificed herself for him.
I mean, we're getting a bit further on right now.
Rightfully mad at us right now. So
let's get there.
That's such a good point, though, Bruce. That's such a good point. It's such a good point. No, I mean we do have to get there. Obviously, we can
have to get them.
Here, let me just skim this. We confront the queen, who is upset that the general came to our side. The queen fights us. We fight the queen. She has loyalty to Epark. It's revealed that she's been also consuming and cannibalizing their own kind, however, thus benefiting from his power and his reach. Then we use, when Paitha makes her big display of everybody, we use her to show mercy, which people seem not at all interested in, but although of course perhaps Paitha has ulterior motives, and rather than be used as something that was Epark's weakness, the queen sacrifices herself to him and gives her life force to him.
But before she does that, she does mention something along the lines of, if Epark wasn't here, Epark is what's holding this world together, or something like that.
Should we get there? Should we get there? Because we're a big way off here.
And I think that might be an important line.
I mean, I think we can stop there.
Maybe.
The thing is that everything else from this point to that point is just Phil Green bar chains.
Actually, wait. If I go, once you did the events, you find Galrath. Well, let's see it. Let's see how much. Let's see how much, because we still got to go for it, like we do our thing. But like saying that, like saying the other side of things as well. Yes, the bar. I was like 1 green bar. Okay, I'm okay with that. I don't mind going around the map and doing some events and doing that, and that's fun. And I can do map completions as well. I love it. I don't mind it that much. 1 green bar, just one. Okay, just one. I can do it.
Sounds like he's leading to something.
But when it becomes 2,
that's my limit.
When Jebro becomes a sad boy.
What if it was like 1.5 bars? Is that okay?
I don't know. I feel like that's still 2.
Is there enough room for that?
If it's a separate bar, it's just a second one. But yeah, so and then we're trying to find these ancient artifacts, and I'm like, I can't even remember why. In all honesty, I don't remember why we were doing that. If anyone does, like, please let me know.
Something to do with getting ancient weaponry and learning a new thing that just didn't pan out. Yeah.
And then also the fact that Epark looks the way he does. People are talking about he should be more spidery, and I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. But what I want to know is why all the rifts going into Tyria have like a big eye in them.
It's because of the monster that we see in the end of the Amnitis.
That one?
As far as I know.
But he's like just a dude.
Norris.
But he's like an underling
as far as I know, he's the one I know, and he's. Yes, I can't help but wonder if Eparch has other forms. He does share the same skeletal model as Garin.
Mm-hmm.
Was he originally a native? Is he Cryptus? Was he from elsewhere and invaded this realm and was transformed by it?
Is he someone else entirely?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I have some ideas.
I think he's a shifter. You think he's a shifter?
I actually don't.
Whether it's through having consumed so much in of the Cryptus and in Nyos, or because of something else with him trying to connect this place to his power, or he could just be a Cryptus and have been here. I'm not sure.
I think he's something. I think he's someone else. I've got a feeling about him. I've got a feeling he's a goodie.
I think Ramesses is gonna betray us as well. I think that he's the son of Eparch.
There's
just that bombshell.
No, Ramesses, my old mucker. Wait, actually, technically, Boots as well. This is the third green bar we're on right now, because the artifacts is the 2, and then there's another green bar, which is the other event.
3 is too many. You're right. 3 is too many.
And you have to do that so you can. Yeah, you're scouting the location of Nephis, and then you've got the story stuff. Really.
I'm looking at the Norris Guild Wars 2 wiki section, The Eyes of the Abyss.
Yeah.
And there is no information on Norris, just what he does in fights.
Oh.
Like no lore whatsoever.
His tentacles are everywhere.
Yeah, but so like, why is there no lore on him?
What? Sorry?
You were saying that it's because of Norris that there's eyes in the.
But it's theorized, yeah.
I know, but like, does it say anywhere that
eyes?
he's the one opening the rifts, or?
I think the assumption is that because he has those eyes all over him and his tentacles appear in the rifts, that it's theorized that he is either the one capable of like tearing these rifts that facilitates it for Eparch, or that he we genuinely don't know.
All right.
I mean, it's maybe we'll get more with the final portion.
Oh, that's another story then.
I do feel like things got kind of muddy in this installment because they want to create a sense of tension that Paitha maybe isn't to be trusted. But then also we see her doing things that would presumably be to the opposite of Eparch, and it seems as though the realm has suffered because of Eparch. But then, like you said, Fornax, we don't really see that other than him pushing in and killing a bunch of the wizards and, launching assaults, we assume, on the world itself. But when he shows up in the final moments as well, the fact that he isn't really instigated to crush us, even though he's been a threat supposedly this whole time, but he isn't really instigated to crush us until we kill his queen, who he seems to have genuinely loved. It's just very muddy. And maybe there are some big reveals. Maybe there's some big switcheroos. Maybe Asgarin's really the big bad. Maybe there's a reason that it's so muddy and ambiguous here in the middle section. But I do feel like there's not as much, be it imagery-wise, character-wise, story-wise, lore-wise, demonology-wise, right, with our understanding of the Cryptus from what we get. There's not a lot for us to grab onto in these middle sections, except for some of the stuff that's mentioned about the realm, some of the imagery of the realm, where supposedly Eparch's corruption is that nasty badness that's everywhere, and we see other areas that look more tranquil, more peaceful, more natural.
So was I wrong about the realm being created by powerful entities rather than it being its own thing that happened before the Cryptus came?
I mean, I think it's an official mist realm. I feel like it's just like ours was created around kind of the seed of Suwan. I think this realm evolved as well in its own unique way. Although we're not really given its creation story, but if it's the realm of dreams, then it could literally be like the personification of the thoughts of the multiverse, even, which would be fascinating. where the story has fallen apart or is lacking, I just don't understand why they didn't they could have all the same events happening, but if they had characters delivering narrative lines on the map that is associated with the main storyline, then they could hold hands and kind of bridge the stuff that we're missing. They could have Eparch or the shadow of Eparch or these portals with Eparch's voice booming through them if they wanted to keep him like hidden for the big reveal. So at least we kind of feel like he is a threat to us, that his position as the monster on the hill is kind of justified. But we've just had a succession of undeveloped associated characters who have been killed off summarily, who we haven't had enough time to interact with and care about, and whose impact on the story seems to be negligible.
Well, Phoenix, here's a question for you. How impactful is Nephis in this section? As I'm pushing us on a little bit.
So
and if this isn't anything to do with it,
I just don't know. I wanted to talk about what she just said, though.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
That there was the characters are being introduced and then killed without very much impact on the story because of it. So, in particular, the Queen, who we saw in one instance here, she gets introduced here and then gets killed in the next instance.
Not the next one.
And when we talk about it afterwards, one of the things that are brought up is, oh my God, Eparch got all the energy of the Queen. How bad is this? How much more powerful is he now than he was before when he was so difficult to beat? We didn't interact with Eparch before. So why would the difference in power between now versus what he was before? Why would that matter to us at all?
Yeah, and we easily beat and subdued the Queen. So, but it's established that she's also been eating Cryptus, which I believe is supposed to be the stepping stone for why it's such a threat that now her power is also in Eparch. But I agree that there's a disconnect in those two sides of things, right?
Yeah. We also kicked her ass handily, so I mean...
Yeah. I mean, if we had fought Eparch before and were subdued in some way, and then he got more powerful even afterwards, and then we had the lines that went, uh-oh, now he's even more powerful, what do we do? Yes, that would make sense, but we've not interacted with Eparch at all until this moment. He has not attacked us, we have not attacked him. And he's more powerful than an ephemeral amount of power that he had before that I don't understand.
His minions have attacked us. Those who support him have attacked us. But again, I think as Fornak's been pointing out, there's not a really strong direct correlation to him having a hand in this.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that everybody's like, yeah, Eparch is the king, so Eparch's the one that chooses to do this. But we don't get a sense of a lot of this. I think even if this map had dropped us in the middle of what was an incursionary force where we were seeing waves of hostile Cryptus being lined up and sent to these, points.
Sucked up by him.
Yeah.
Go back to Heart of Thorns. Go back to Heart of Thorns with that. Heart of Thorns does a really good job of doing that in the map where you've got the side point, you've got the edges of the map and you see their army moving and talking about going to the front line and going to different places, if you notice that. Yeah. It's very cool because you get a sense of something big happening around in the region rather than just in this specific map where
Agreed.
But it's the same problem with Nephis, isn't it? So we get this bigged up general, but we have no idea why he's bigged up.
I've got no
Ramesses is Ramesses is but he's got a narrative about him. So again, as I said, where's the cutscene? Either give us some gameplay so that we can play through a memory as Ramesses by his side as we do the great wars that they talked about. So there's obviously been some civil unrest.
I have a question about that. So he's a general in the army, right? A respected general. What are they fighting? They're fighting us.
Yeah.
Were they fighting? Yeah, did he earn his respect by invading humanity? Were these wars leading up to Eparch's rule in the ancient days? Was it other realms?
Yeah,
I mean, we don't ask because we genuinely have no idea.
Yeah.
And where are these hierarchical structures? You know, like if the cryptids have lived like this for so long, there is a tier of nobility, it seems. There are generals, there are armies. But again, like these structures, we at the start of this whole thing get the information that these kinds of nobility hierarchies and structures were something that were more formally implemented by Eparch. But like, how do they serve the realm? I mean, if it is something where those upper crust are being forced to consume and cannibalize like the smaller beings, or why they're even trying to invade the realm of the living, to feast off of them, to grow stronger, to transform them, to take their energy for themselves. It feels like we've lost some connection with this. And thinking about the queen and about, you know, where are the stakes of why does it matter that Eparch has consumed her, right?
Yeah.
All of that could have been supported here. If we had known why or to what purpose or for what use this consumption is happening. I see in the chat crew mentioning her fight and how her fight was really well done and how you almost wished it had been a strike, which I agree with. It felt like it could have been a strike, but I also think it could have been something where if they want to set her up as being some kind of monstrous, considerable power, then don't have like a guard, like don't have like a royal guard around her that you then fight one by one, and don't have it so that like she's like vomiting up the cryptids that she's consumed, and they're rising up as these horrors or something and fighting you, and then she's consuming them again, and she's tearing them apart, and she's getting stronger for it, and she's fighting you. Have some dialogue in her fight about what Eparch's actual.
I mean, maybe all of this is just leading to the fact that these people aren't that bad, and
well,
maybe
like, that's possibly what. That's the plan. That's the thing I think Payphone might be doing. I think, you know, we're gonna get to find out that she probably is just a baddie, like trying to put us against this. Well, I mean, obviously, if it's true, and it sounds like it's true because we're talking to you said you talked to the villagers, and we've, I mean, they do say there's oppression, like they are oppressed,
and they get sucked up sometimes.
That's true. So that's true. So there is. But like, okay, let's focus back on this bit with the queen, where we're so this is where I start to get a little bit more. I got a little bit agitated. I'll say, by kind of some of the stuff that also Rook was saying as well. But we're with Nephis, and we're about to storm the Queen's stronghold. And there's just us two. And I'm just like, isn't this guy a general who commands an army? Like, not just any army, but is the most respected general in the entire thing.
No, and there was a pincer situation going on. Thank you very much. Didn't he say these people are going this way, these people are going this way, and we're going up the front?
Yeah. So there's only like 4 people in the entire.
That's strategery right there.
Jesus.
So there's not really many extra NPCs. There is a few. There's about 7 more that join us probably as we storm the castle, the stronghold, which has not many guards either. And then I'm just like, this doesn't feel very. Like,
look at one thing that.
Look at the area though. Look at the area. Like, it's kind of grand. There's these steps. There's like building.
It's a nice area.
But like, there's just. And then when Rook said it, then the one person over the time coming to attack you, I'm like, dude, you know who we are. Like, come on, man. Like, this could have been a whole meta thing. I don't know, but like, it was just wild to me. This whole bit where it's just like, you're attacking our queen. We will send 7 versus 7. And it's like absolutely blew my mind that this was a thing. And it's like, yeah, sure, they're like pretty tough themselves. And then that's the last bit. I get it. And that was good. But it just seemed so off to me. And this was the perfect example for me where the gameplay and the game did not connect to the story that was being told. And from here on out, I was lost. I was just I was like, what is this? The thing that really saved this was the fight. The fight was good. The fight was solid. One really like those fights where I'm like, okay, that was pretty cool. I appreciate it. There's some mechanics here. I love this. But damn. Damn is what I'm gonna say.
It was a little funny that Nethys, this renowned general that we recruited specifically for this mission, I think is used as the same model for her guard, for her honor guard.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. It's the same model. I mean, and I get it. Like, he's a general. Maybe he's not meant to look like that.
Yeah,
unique.
I mean, it's their world, right? Like, if you're not high enough rank, you look the same as other things. Yeah. But I thought if he was a renowned general, he might look a little
Her model
different.
is wicked. I think her model's almost better.
I figured out why the upper echelons look different.
Why is that?
I think it's because they're consuming. I think Pather. I think all of them who look different.
So they're more solidified.
The essence of others.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Which is why they've got more human kind of features and stuff. As they eat more, they become more formed.
Do you?
I think so.
Did you only become like that if you consume other Cryptis, or can you also do it by consuming Tyrion's emotions?
I think if it was Tyrion's emotions, then they'd all look wildly different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think they're specifically. I mean, so in the first camp, there is a conversation where two MPs are talking to each other, and they've been taking chunks out of each other, they've been taking bites out of each other, and I don't know whether that's for communication or for like pair bonding or whatever, but that it certainly seems to be like ritualistic eating of one another seems to be part of their culture. But I think that there's a distinct difference between these kind of ritualistic biting and the consumption of another being, and I feel like this might be where Cirrus and Deimos and Liberus and Hater, they're part of the houses, and the houses are basically consuming the realm, right? And it's not just the cannibal king, it's not just the midnight king, it's his whole kind of parasitical hierarchical royal family. And I get the simile.
And so why did it come to this? How long has this been going on, do you think? Because
they said
at least a week.
They said that this had been happening since our realm was young. So if our realm was young, then 10,000 years, maybe 20,000.
Okay.
Wow. So, give or take 20,000 years, yeah. That's quite a long time.
What do Cryptis eat normally? Like, is it just emotions from other realms?
I don't know if we know that, do we? Specific? Like,
I think the implication seems to be. Sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
You didn't.
No, that was a question for you.
I think the implication is that they originally. Did you just insult me and I missed it? Did you want to say that again?
No. Okay. I saw cereal in the chat. I just said cereal. I was just laughing at cereal and I said it.
Oh, that would be fun. I think that it's said that they used to visit the dreams of others, and that they consumed the emotions of the dream states, and that's where they got their energy from. But they don't visit anymore because there's a travel ban from.
So, is Garen forcing Eparch to just feed on his own people, and he's creating the situation by?
Well, I think that's why he just wants them to all die and doesn't really care how. Right, the more options, the better, I guess.
You think that Isgaren is locked down the realm, and then the only place they can attack is the Wizard's Tower and the
It could be, or that they're like controlling who's allowed to go out or feed on mortals, or I mean, that could be part of it as well. Maybe like a combination of either cannibalizing their own kind, or those who are, given the right to go out, like we kind of saw with Kanak Sai, or things like that, where it seems as though they've emerged to prey actively on people, or lead the assaults on things like the wizards. We also don't know, other than just the general blanket statement of power, why Eparch wished to be a part of the wizards, and or if his continued assaults on them and the realms beyond is just because of his own greed. But like from what we have literally seen of him this episode, just purely from like the story standpoint, I don't. Yeah, I don't seem to get a sense of that from him, other than people just saying that he does that. You know what I mean? It's very interesting here. It's very interesting, and I do actually like the idea of the higher tiers of demons perhaps being a more complex blend of emotions, and that as they've amassed power or through their bloodlines or what it might be, or consuming a range of other beings of their own kind, or I don't know.
You know what it is? It's so Eparch is Toby from The Office.
Oh god.
Oh, interesting.
And everybody talks about how much they hate Toby and how terrible he is.
Yeah.
But you know, when you meet him, he's like, okay, he's not the worst. He's not terrible. He's just a guy, I guess.
Okay, so good sign to keep going. Tekla the Venerable, wicked. Like that guy.
I thought you were about to say the venereal, and I was like, that's going to be very different. That's going to be very different.
That would probably be more descriptive. Anyway, we're on to this kind of last instance now. As we bring all the audience of Nias together so that we can... was there another bar, or did I just not do this? Oh, I did a rift. Oh, ADHD. Yes, cool. Good stuff. It's just like on my way to do the thing, and then there's an event. Well, which is actually a credit to the game and what they've built. You know, if there's good stuff on the way you want to do, that's cool. But also, like I said, ADHD. Okay, let me just pull it over to this point. Okay. What? I'm just kind of... I'm watching my face in a lot of this. And I'm just like... I just don't look that massively happy most of the time.
You're talking about your expression on your face.
Yeah, sorry, the expression on my face. But like, I love getting these kind of cinematic shots so I can create these moments for myself, especially when they're not being created for me. And I can get good screenshots. Now, this was kind of cool, right? Again, with the people in the background and stuff, you know, I know that there's probably model limits, and I get that and stuff, but still, it was just like, maybe they've all been eaten, I guess, and that's why there's not many people hanging out. But I didn't get the drama and the... Do you know what I mean? It just didn't really...
It lacks spectacle.
I didn't give a crap. I just didn't care, because I didn't care about the Queen at all, and it was just like I didn't care, and pay for like, you know, well voice acted and everything else, but she was trying to talk to the audience and stuff. I just didn't feel like kind of like the speeches, like the kind of leadership that would shine through from someone like her, like in their stature, and I was just like disconnected from this point and during this stuff. And I wonder what my face is like when the Queen dies as well, because I was just like, what? There you go, there it is. What do they say? Okay. Oh, look, let's have a look at when Eparch comes through. Sorry, actually, because that's not too bad. Now, Eparch's model I like. I actually think Eparch's model is cool. He looks very different to most of them. He's also hovering because of what we were kind of talking about earlier. But his presence here, like, how is his entrance? How is his general presence here? Like, how is, for the first time we're properly seeing him, how impactful is he when he comes in here? Go on, Phonics. Give me it. Give me it.
Oh. Why do I have to be the bad guy?
There is no bad guy. Like, there is no bad guy. Like, I can tell you my thought if you want, and it's not going to be good.
It's anticlimactic. It's anticlimactic. That's how I felt. I wanted him to be kind of larger than life.
Yeah.
I wanted him to kind of loom over us. I wanted to have that same kind of uncomfortable threat that we got with Cyrus when we first arrived on the realm. That was deeply well done. You wanted to get away from him. You could feel his hulking presence. It was ominous. It was uncomfortable. It pushed into your personal space, and it really worked to sell who this thing was and his malice and his ill intent. And we don't get that. Everyone is so polite. This could be like a board meeting. Everyone is so polite. And I forgive you. And my love. And it's so pedestrian. And it should be.
Sorry. Yeah, please go ahead. I'm having a revelation while you talk.
And God, I'm helping. It's just so anticlimactic, and it should have been this. He has been a looming presence since almost like the first volley of the expansion, and it just didn't serve the character, and it didn't serve us as players how he was introduced.
He's got tiny feet.
He doesn't have any feet.
He doesn't have any. He's hovering.
He got little
He doesn't
stumps.
have any feet. That's his cloak.
I guess
Stumpy boy.
there are little pieces. I don't know.
Really?
Oh, they might be legs actually. I think he does have tippy tappy
Are they legs or are they like
I don't
pink
think
legs?
so.
I think he
So
has
either
little
he's got
tip-tap
tiny
legs.
feet or he's
He
a
does
pirate.
an animation of walking, because if you see his hips move as if he's walking when he
You can
walks
see
in.
what looks like two legs coming down.
Oh
on
yeah,
his
they
curve
kind of look
that
like
have like a little.
spidery leg.
They
thin
are
legs,
kind of
maybe?
spidery. I actually never noticed that until this point, but I agree. Like when you look at this area, right? This whole cliffside edge of like the Colosseum that's crumbled could have just as easily been used for a massive eparch to like
That's what I thought was
rise
gonna
up.
happen.
And he like rises up in the background
Yes.
and he sees that these people are gathering, because at least in the early way that things were set up, right? Arena says they had to hide. They had to flee from his forces lest they be immediately killed. That the only reason she and the others have stayed alive this long is because they were hidden. But like we never get this sense of like all of his patrolling forces and his ominousness, other than like, sure, yeah, sometimes we fight some of them. But like if he had come up here and like around the edges of the arena, we'd seen some of his forces close in, or he'd reached out and grabbed a handful of the cryptists that were in the stands that were listening and like devoured them. And then like with his other hand, you know, like raised up to use the energy that he had just imbibed and like laid low a bunch of the others, or made them bow before him, or like pulled us down to our knees. Like there's
I mean, I think
so
that's
much
a choice
that could have
they
communicated.
made.
It is a choice they made.
And I know, but I think
It's definitely a choice they made.
honestly, I think it's purposeful just because of the fact that the other choice they made is that the queen sacrificed herself to give him the power rather than him claiming the power because she failed him or something. It really seems like
we're talking about his impactful, like on the area, like in this moment specifically.
That's what I'm trying to say.
See him there.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say his entrance here, they made a choice to make him not as scary as he could have been. Like
why?
Stealing the life from his queen instead of her giving it to him is a choice. And the choice is telling you
that's his impactful moment.
Yeah,
and the choice is telling you that he is respected by some of his underlings at least, and they were in love, and there's emotion there, and there's it's an I don't know. It's like
I agree.
It still seems odd though to do it. Like it still doesn't feel like a good. Like but like when I was here in this moment right there, the reason why,
but I don't know why.
One of the reasons why I had the screenshot here was because I was getting ready to pan to the left, because I thought it was exactly like Rook said. It was so, and maybe it's that was too predictable. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. But it would have been cool. So in ESO, in one of the dungeons, there's a massive boss which does exactly the same in one of the dungeons, and it's so damn cool. Just like, whoa, there's this big massive dude, and he's like doing some shit, and then becomes a boss and stuff, and it's just so good. And it's like, I love these hulking things. You know, in the meta on like the thingy map. above the wizard's tower, the one there. Is that who's that? What's the creature called there? It's not Neris.
Thingy Marrow?
The big eye thing that comes through the portal, tentacles.
Norris, right?
That one. So the big meta boss, that guy. Jesus Christ. That thing is hideous and massive and wicked. That thing is so cool. And I'm just like, look at this guy. And then like he just pops in and he's just like, all right, love. You didn't do very well. Let's just slap you around the face, kill your guts, and I'll take your power. There we go.
As much as I agree with you guys that it would have been so much cooler if he had come in like the way you're describing, and I think we would have had more fun that way, there must be a reason why they did it this way and tried to make it as gray morally as possible. Maybe something's coming up that'll be a surprise for us or something.
Well, I think we've been waiting for that. I think we've been waiting for that surprise often. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, this is the thing. I think we just have to wait to see this last portion of the story to really see how we think this whole thing comes together.
There's only one more part, right?
Yeah, but it should be of the at least the length and impact of that first major release when the expansion dropped.
It has to be bigger. It has to be bigger than this last release. It has to be, right? It's gotta be. No green bars. Do not green bar me. Please do not green bar me.
I know. I mean, I don't mind if they do that. Usually when they're kind of giving us like, when they're tipping their hat to us that like, hey, maybe there's a meta event that ties into the narrative that you should do, or if they're directing us to really specific areas where it enhances the story, right? It's fine. But all of this to say, I think right here, right now, we have two possibilities. One, these two interim patches served the purpose of
even give you a reach round. Yeah.
They served the purpose of sowing a seed of doubt. Sowing a seed of doubt as to how we understood the situation and to making us empathize with him for a specific purpose, right? In which we will learn or have the tables turned on us in the last portion that like, hey, lo and behold, maybe Eparch isn't what we thought we knew of him. Maybe we have been manipulated by Paitha. Maybe we have been manipulated by Isgarin. Maybe our understanding of the situation is flawed, which is very possible, in which case, Boots, like you're saying, this moment will be like, oh, that totally makes sense why they did it this way. Yeah. And this was very, very much meant to be a turning point.
Yeah. If that never comes, then like, I 100% agree with you.
Like, if it doesn't come and he truly is a villain, and it really is that he's this bad guy that everybody says, and Paitha really is trying to help cleanse the realm and return it to a better emotional state, and like maybe there can be mercy again, and maybe there can be whatever the Cryptists were before this made them what they are as we know them. Then like I do think that in these chapters they have failed to communicate the themes of the story to the greatest impact and in a way that feels supportive, but we don't know yet. I mean, we'll have to see. It could be that with this final portion, we're like, it's brilliant.
The thing is that a good story is good the whole way through. It shouldn't be we are going to wait for the final bit to be blown away. It just shouldn't be that. It's not like that with any good story. I mean, like we all know that, right? Like I know we're hoping, but like it cool. I get it. Like, yeah, this is a bit cool, but it's still generally, I was generally let down. Like, even if this isn't going to be as big as like the end finale, it doesn't mean that in the one release of 4 in a year, with this 3 months gap, they shouldn't be making each one as impactful as the last. The last episode should be as good as the middle episode. You know what I mean? Like,
now that we've gotten
do that.
Now that we've gotten the 2 middle episodes, would you have preferred to have both of them together in one? Therefore, being able to take out some of the staging things and be able to like sort of tie it together more coherently, and have, I guess, what would that be? So 6 months. It's been 3 months, 3 months, and then it'll be 3 months to the next one. So then we'd have instead 4 months, 4.5 months between each episode.
I think then you're going into the realms as that they do an expansion every 2 years instead of 1 year. or every year and a
No,
half,
not
and then
really.
it becomes because it's going to stretch into you can't.
No, like
So
look,
you're saying
you have,
3 yearly patches rather than 4?
yeah, in this
Interesting.
particular case at least, if it means
I
that
don't
the
think it
story
would have made a
doesn't suffer as
difference.
much.
I don't think it would have made. It's the same time. I think it all comes down to time and resources. Like Rook gave a good example of ESO earlier. The reason they can do what they do, they have the money and they've got the resources to do it. They've got so much money and so many people working on that content that story is banging every time. You go and do a side quest in that game, it is stupidly good. Like, it is ridiculous how good the storytelling is in that game because they've got enough people to do all of these things and actually really solidly meld it with the game and the mechanics and all the things that go with it. Like, I don't feel like this. I feel like this whole, for me, the way they're doing this at the moment isn't working for them, and I think they've got it for the next one. I think they've got it sorted for the next expansion. I already think they've given us hints and tips of like how they are learning from this expansion, even in terms of their delivery. Yes, I pick up my cat a lot. Love that thing. I think they're really learning so much from this, and I also think I would even bet that they would look back at parts of this and realize that they could have done things differently. But this is one of those moments where in life, like, they're gonna get so much experience from this, and it's gonna really, really pivot the next expansion in a way which I think is going to be very successful. I think it's unfortunate because it's the Wizard's Tower, and there is so much goodness in this, and there's so many good potential stories. I think the next expansion is going to be banging.
I think they could have saved this.
This one's good. It's not awful. It's not like bad. Like, I don't say everything is awful. Like, I'm not saying everything at all. I love this map. I actually really fucking love this map. I love the events. I love the story of the villagers. They're cute and funny, and I'm kind of taking the piss sometimes, but genuinely, look at the flipping images we have. Like, look at this stuff. It's really good. The art design is good. The way the map comes together with the events is fun. You know, there's some really great characters in there. The voice acting is awesome.
So in the end, it looks like it's not a dark tower.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong about that.
No, but look, it's just spires floating in the sky. It's not actually tied together into a tower.
Oh, we don't know what it's going to look like.
But that's in the distance.
Yeah.
You can't see that.
It might dissolve.
I mean, I would love if they do some kind of like transformation by the end of this, where Nyos in the realm of dreams reverts to some state that's like uncorrupted, and we learn more about the crypt. Like, I think that would be super cool.
I didn't mean to get so animated. Just
no, it's just one of those things where like there's so much good stuff in this expansion. There are so many parts of it that are really cool and like phenomenal ideas and incredible material. And we all knew that the first expansion cycle, as they switched to this new one, would probably come with a lot of lessons with it, right? That they're going to learn a lot. And I don't think it has been. Yeah, like I don't think it's been a disaster. I want to be like totally clear. We've had a lot of critique about the narrative, but I don't think that this has been some flaming disaster. I think far more it's been a success. I think that a lot of things have been really good about it. I think the initial release and a lot of the, features and stuff that we've gotten have been really solid, really good. And while we have felt a little bit of this threadbareness in these middle parts, it doesn't negate the rest of that. I think the setting, the story, the narrative, the characters, the ideas, the concepts, as well as a lot of the things that they've implemented, not to mention that during these periods, while things have been a little bit more sparse, they have also been bringing back a ton of events with the dungeon rushes and other stuff and other incentives. So there has been a lot that's been really good. And as we were talking about at the start of the episode today, we also had this phenomenal world race that we'll be talking more about for the Temple of Febe CM. And there has been huge positive reception to that. And following up on things like the Harvest Temple CM, this for me gives a really positive, good feeling about the future of difficult end game content in Guild Wars 2. Not to mention the fact that they aren't going to nerf it. They're going to nerf it, but only to introduce a middle tier of difficulty, which will be the first triple, like 3 different levels of difficulty fight that we have in the game.
Wild.
So again, there's a lot of good stuff that came out of this.
Yes,
and even with some of this feedback about these middle episodes, I do still think that overall the concept, narrative, and other facets of this expansion hang together more strongly and present a better overall like united front than some of the places here or there in the game where we've had maybe some more threadbare times and things like that. We've had good content, we've had regular content, we know what to expect coming up in the future in regards to a new expansion starting, and we've had a lot of other things around this that have made it a success. But when looking at the narrative alone, there are things to consider for their next expansion, which I'm sure that they have, right? So I'll be curious to see how much of this feedback or thoughts or things like that we even, come at with the next expansion and are like, oh, hey, they did exactly what we were thinking about. Or, oh, hey, I think the balance of this one was much better here or there, or stuff like that, right? So
the interesting as well, like, I was looking at the numbers and we had drops last week, which, there might be some feedback about the what that was about, what we actually got from that. Please put skins in there. Don't give us random inventory crap that we don't want. Just please. People will be flocking to the directory for that. There were more people watching towards the end of the strike race than during drops and the actual race together, I believe. Or that it was very close, because there was at least 4 to 5k on the last couple of days of that race, and there was about 4 or 5k like kind of in the middle of drops as well, other than the first day, and it never really peaked. And that goes to show how it's always going to be content that can really bring through a directory over just purely drops. Obviously drops are going to be something which is, depending on what it is, but like pure content, like you don't see the Guild Wars 2 channel popping off like that, the directory popping off like that for not much. It will be a big event, always.
I think another thing is that it would be interesting if next time they release a raid, or not a raid, I mean a strike CM that's as finely tuned, it seems, to the highest tier, that they announce that it's going to be this close. Because I think there's a lot of teams that might have wanted to participate in this World First if they had known it was going to be this kind of a challenge.
It's difficult to know, though, isn't it? Because they don't get these. They don't get any of these guys.
This is the first time it's like this, really. HTCM is the only other one that's kind of close, but this is definitely harder than HTCM.
The people that test aren't like,
Yeah, I know what you're
saying.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'm just, they're great players and they got wicked feedback and they know what they're doing way more than I do. But like at the end of the day, until you get this out to people, you don't know how difficult this is. I think this is the beginning of their journey in this. I think it was the same in World of Warcraft and whatnot as well, right? Because raiding was still very much like a new thing in kind of MMORPGs. So like the assumption was that they could make like events from this and it was a fun thing. And it was like, oh, there's difficulty in this. So they worked it out, I guess, as they went on.
I think that from the very beginning, when they decided to introduce achievements, because achievements weren't in the game for the first, I'm going to say 18 months or so. When they introduced raids and achievements, they had round first, so that they incentivized round first challenge, because they were all about the kind of player versus player aspect in terms of like realm versus realm. And it solidified like realm pride, because you couldn't transfer for the first, I think, 3 or 4 years, even off your server. So people were, you had to create characters and people were coalescing around different servers. And
it was
like
region and server for like it was as well. So it was region versus NA versus EU versus whatever region there was at the time. I don't even know if there wasn't a region.
I mean, this opens up some possibilities for them, though, moving forward, right? We talked about this.
Last week.
My gosh, was this just last weekend?
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Last week. Yeah. We talked about this last week. The idea of World First needing reliable, communicated difficulty threshold content, right? If you know it's going to be hard, teams can prepare and they can jump into it to compete for something like a World First. And of course, stuff like having incentives. The unique titles are amazing, I think, or having something like server, like indication. But even so, as long as people know that there is high difficulty, high threshold content, they'll usually prepare and they'll come in. But this sort of adjustment that they decided to do this past week with introducing a middle tier of difficulty after the fact could pave the way for future fights to be released at this kind of incredibly difficult threshold, right? Where maybe all strike CMs from here on out are at the top tier of the game. And it's something where they're like, we're going to release like big bangers every single time that we can, especially if they don't have other end game content that we don't know. Maybe they'll raid, maybe they'll not raid, who knows? But like, it could be something where if they decide to release strike CMs at that threshold of difficulty, it becomes more predictable. And then they get into a cadence of, after it has been out for 2 weeks or whatever, we release the normal level difficulty or something like that. Well, or reverse it, right? Or release it normal difficulty, but then we release the actual, like with the middle difficulty, I guess you could say. But then we release,
Question, do you think that they'll go back and they'll look at because they've got a lot of raid content, do you think that they might think about adding almost like mythic tier difficulty for the raid bosses that they already have?
Depends
in
how
there?
much work they've really got to do, right? Like what is the difference between the CM and the other version they're putting in, right? I guess.
True, because
is
I mean,
damage,
if you look
is
at
it numbers, is it what? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mythic in WoW, each boss has a unique mechanics introduced into it for the Mythic, and they will be born out of the kind of the base mechanics, but they will add a like, oh my goodness, like there's like dancing around, and there's like they put so much thought into the Mythic raiding. It's one of the strongest suits in World of Warcraft, and they always kind of knock it out of the park. But it's very much the same in 14 as well, where they will have the base fight where everyone can get involved with it. Then they'll have a normal difficulty for like guild groups, and then they will have a tier above that requires a level of commitment and coordination and organization. And there is prestige.
Getting a title for each one of these would be a great reward.
I mean, I was just thinking it might be something they could do, new money for old rope, as it were, going back and looking at the catalogue that they have and having tweaks to that, so to make it a challenge to get the eyes on the raiding and get the eyes on the end game, and where the game really shines, which is player skill.
Well, there's an audience for it, now I might. After all the stuff I said last week, I still kind of believe what I said last week, but I got pulled into it this week, and I watched a lot of. Well, I didn't watch it. I had it on the other screen, and I was watching Snow Crows pretty intently because I was like, they're the team I'm following. They've got my support. I'm a Snow Crows one, and then it was just like, oh, if they got it, and then I had the other stream up and another stream up of another team doing it as well, and then there was like rumors about another NA team in the back, just like they're doing something as well, and then you're just like, who's actually playing? But it was really between two teams, and even then there was still quite a gap between them until a certain point, when Snow Crows was just like only getting like 0.1% progression over 2 or 3 days, which was wild. And then you had Teapot's Guild like really catching up by getting like a couple of percent here and there every day, and that's what made it really exciting. But it was like, there was a lot of people watching it, and sure, there's not a ton of people, there's probably not that many people playing them that was watching it, but that doesn't have to be the point, right? Like, it got eyes on the directory, so that kind of changed my mind about what it can do for the directory, and then advertising and showing people that what it's got. And then I think when people go to that in a getting game, they're gonna potentially
also,
be disappointed, which is my concern.
So the fact that
at least they're in the game.
The fact that these strikes, like the argument against doing this kind of difficulty in the past has been you're putting resources towards something that's such a small...
Is there many people arguing that you shouldn't have a CM mode?
That this was the argument previously. Like previously, people were arguing that you shouldn't even put story connected to raids because not enough people would be playing the raids. Remember that existed.
Story towards a raid. Wait.
Raids shouldn't have story because then not enough people would be able to play them.
Because there's no story easy accessible mode, which is why they made the emboldened versions, right?
Right, that was not going to happen. But now with strikes, the fact that the strikes are based on the story,
yes,
and then you already have different levels of difficulty. You have the story difficulty.
You turned epic there for a moment. Sorry, you okay? You had an epic.
The story difficulty. You have the strike difficulty, and then for some of them you have the CM difficulties. Sure. The amount of effort to turn it into a difficulty that is only for the 1% or even less is much less now than creating a whole new raid entirely. So there's no reason not to do it anymore.
This is why strikes are just the nads. They're just that's why they feel so good. Like, people can't complain about missing out on the story, because they just have to go and play the story. That's all they have to do. And then people can try the strike and they can probably nail the strike anyway, because like some of these aren't that bad. I haven't tried them personally, so I don't know. I mean, I've tried them up to the latest, like the first boss we got. Or have I even done that? I don't think I've even done the Soto ones. But, I think it's just that one boss. It's good. It's like clean, done. Chuck another one out there.
Mandela makes a good point, though.
It's so possibly hard to make a progression fight for a game like Guild Wars 2. I think they've got so lucky with Sarah CM and HTCM. Very easy to mess up and have a fight get one shot. It was supposed to be hard enough to force long prog.
So even in this case in particular, apparently Sarah CM was bugged the first time it came out, in that it only had 106 million HP. But at 8, when you get it down to 80%, it gets scaled up for some reason. It had a bug where it got scaled up to 160 million HP.
Okay.
And they fixed that. But if that bug didn't exist, it's very likely that they would have probably 1 or 2 shot or 3 shot the boss, because 106 million HP would have been a little bit too easy for Sarah CM. I think they reduced it down. In the end, they fixed the bug and set the HP to like 130 or something like that. I don't know the exact numbers. So, and that's where it came to. So it's true. They were lucky in that case, in this particular scenario. So I'm guessing it is kind of difficult to know exactly how to
do what they did before with the next one, then.
Yeah, make a bug that makes it impossible to get the first day.
Right?
I mean, it's an experiment always, right? Like, this is something that's pretty common in World of Warcraft.
I think they're more intentional with it, though, or you would hope so, right?
I mean, well, yes and no, right? I've witnessed world races and things in WoW where things are extremely overtuned and unpassable or unclearable within the first few days, where bugs are happening and literally being patched live during the race.
They patched it. So they patched it during the race, but the bug wasn't the thing which was like making it more difficult, so that it actually felt like a challenge, though. So I think it wasn't like...
Well, the bugs make it so you literally can't even prog the fight. Sometimes.
No, that's what I mean. No. So like
Boots
is saying that the bug made it more impactful and more difficult, so that we got hyped for it, and then they... Yeah. Isn't that what you're saying, Boots?
In a way, it made it so that it wasn't easy to kill the first time around.
Yeah, exactly. So the bug wasn't made it harder. It didn't make it impossible.
But it wasn't easy to kill even after they changed it. I mean, when did they fix it in the race?
I think it would have been exactly. I think at 160 million HP, it would have been impossible.
Yeah.
So I think it was a bug that was completely blocking.
So it was completely blocking.
Yeah, but like when the bug was fixed, the fight still had a lot of prog in it.
Left.
Yeah. Okay, that was the main thing. It wasn't like they fixed that bug and then the team's cleared within 2 minutes, kind of thing.
But they were able to, I guess, analyze the progress that was made that first day, and figure out at that point what would be the right amount of HP to make it a challenge, which is good. But didn't know beforehand, I guess, in some ways.
So
WoW has often tuned up bosses. Yes. WoW has often tuned up bosses. If it's too, if they have undertuned it, if it's too easy, if it's too pedestrian for the top tier guilds, they will go in and they will make it more difficult. They tune it to their player base so that it's challenging enough for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's good.
And I think that this is something we just have to see, right? We have to see. But, I've seen some of the ArenaNet devs talking about how proud they are of the team with the world race on this and stuff like that. And so I don't know if some, certain statements like it was luck or sheer luck that they've managed to create 2 very difficult fights does give full credit to the team that are creating these fights to be difficult and tuning them, right? That's not to say that I don't think that luck plays some element in looking for the targets with trying to tune content
still got to
for
create
player
something
bases.
which is intuitive and fun and enjoyable and something which is going to draw people in.
That's the other thing about the fight is that it was designed with very fun mechanics. Like the people
fun.
while doing it was enjoyable.
Yeah, and like that's amazing. That's amazing. And I think if the team, especially with us knowing that there's something on the horizon for the next expansion in regards to Endgame. We don't know what that is again, but there's something supposedly. And with seeing them try to step some things up here, both with Harvest Temple CM and this one, which this one did exceed Harvest Temple by the end. But for a while, even though they had been working on this one for longer, technically days wise, the amount of hours progged was still greater in Harvest Temple. So eventually they were able to surpass it, both in days and hours. But Harvest Temple did hold its ground pretty well prog wise against this one until it really started to get up on that like week and later. So again, I think we're seeing the hard work of the team pay off in trying to figure out how to create stuff like this. And of course, it does mean that I think they will have to overtune. By overtune stuff, I mean they'll have to like make it much more difficult at release and then look at bringing it back. But like you were saying, Fornax, it's not as though they can't adjust it. But it's one of those things where I think that sometimes, if you're really worried about it or the flexibility of your game, they have all this data, all this information from how players have, even cheesed certain things with previous strike missions or Iceberg Saga strike missions. They have an idea of what creates, clear, discernible hurdles and mechanics for players now. And I hope that they keep releasing at high difficulties. And then if they need to reel it back or if there's some things they need to do here or there, go for it. But it's exciting to see. It's really cool.
I mean, they could always take a leaf out of WoW's books, as WoW has been like copying their homework for a while. For example, there's a mythic fight with Gaurosh in Pandaria, in the Pandarian expansion, where if you play on normal modes, you kill him, you defeat him at the end. If you play on mythic mode, it has an entirely new phase where you morph into Stormwind, and he's all messed up with tentacles, and the whole place is on fire, and it's amazing, and it's a great add-on to the story. It's
Why is it you always bring up tentacles, Fornax?
Don't yuck my yum, darling. Don't yuck my
I'm
yum.
not. I'm just asking you a question, my friend. That's all I'm doing. Just a question.
I didn't make the tentacles. Hey, look,
you didn't make
I'm not
them.
judging
That's
anybody.
True. That's true.
I did not, but I did enjoy the tentacles, darling.
Excellent.
No, but here's the thing, though, right? That extra. When the Mythic Raiders got to that, no one in the game had ever seen it. They got him to that phase. He phased into this brand new thing. They got a brand new piece of story. They got a brand new character model. They had this amazing experience that, goddamn, we're in Stormwind now. Holy shit, guys, let's get our act together. And, goddamn, keep the tank alive. And it's just a great experience for them. It's a great experience if everybody on the stream is watching this momentous thing happen. And I think that's where I think that's where this last episode and the one before has kind of lost a step. They've lost that excitement and spectacle. They've lost those big moments. It could have all been kind of like pulled back together and saved at the end of this story mode if when he arrived, when Apak arrived, we cut into a cutscene, and it's like when we were, and we get his emotion and we get to see him emoting to his queen, and he lords it over us. And he's just walked in, stunned everybody, stun-locked everybody, and he should be lording it over us, even as noble as he is. And he could be patting Pather on the head and treating her like the little child that he's emoting that she is, and he's saying that she is. We could have had this amazing cutscene, and I think that that's a lot of the stuff that's missing. They need a dedicated machinima team to bring these story moments to life, so that we can feel them, so that we have that impact. Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed.
If we didn't have that with Joko, that cutscene where he gets eaten, that's amazing. He was such a dick, and I really enjoyed that. He was such an asshole to us, and he just stun-locked us, and he's doing his big speech, and then Aurene comes in and just eats his head. I mean, you can't, that's great, right?
And the highlight of the End of Dragon story for me was the Anka scene with where she kills spoilers, by the way. What's her name? What's her name? Shoot. Anka shoots.
Oh, my Trin.
My Trin, thank you. Oh my god.
I got you. My brain stalled out too, just in response, like, is this something hard? Do I have to remember this one? What is it? Who is he talking about?
Yeah, that was a highlight of the story. For the clip cutscenes in End of Dragons were spectacular. And they were very good in several things in Living Story Season 4 as well. And yeah, you're right. I didn't realize it until now that there's a severe lack of them in at least the last 2 episodes of Soto. I don't remember that. I remember a couple in the original release of Soto, like with Dagda.
There has been a distinct lack of them, I think. I think the story could have been served much better in all aspects if we'd have had more scripted cutscene moments where the characters were able to fully emote what was happening. And I think that we would have felt it more, and it would have had more impact. And I hope that they address that going forward. And it's a machinima team. It's 2 guys and, a lot of coffee. I'm sure they can do it.
Ladies.
That's true.
I mean, guys in the generic. Guys in the non-gendered term of it.
Today on International Women's Day, we're going to default to just guys.
Wow. Oh, don't get me started on that corporate bullshit. Oh my gosh.
Yes, well,
into the fucking sun with you all. Anyway,
we're gonna shoot off now. I think we're gonna end it there, as we've gone into the realms of other things, and I think that's a good time to do it. Everyone, thanks so much for your opinions. Just as a last note as well, again, we talk about these things with passion and joy, and also critiquing things, because that's what we do on podcasts for a start, and also we do it with kindness and respect to everyone that works on the game, because we all believe they are very talented, awesome folks. We appreciate everything they do for us as players, especially with the value that we get from the game, which we very much appreciate, and the easy access that us and many people do have. We appreciate all you do. If you do see this, I hope we have. I don't even hope. I know we have been good with how we've been talking about the game. I know we have. I am pretty confident. At least most of us, Boots. That's a joke. That's a joke. Boots was a good boy as well. Probably the best boy.
Good boy.
Best boy.
Best boy. Best boy Boots.
Best boy is a thing in England. Okay. Let's do a bit of an outro, since we didn't do an intro. Rookery, tell us what you do and where you do it.
I'm reckon it's my dream to be the best boy of the Lightbringers podcast. One day, maybe I'll be able to earn it just like Boots did today. So I'll keep dreaming and keep hoping. In the meantime, you can find me over on my own channels, twitch.tv, Rookery, that's ROOKURI. You can find me on YouTube at the same, and you can find me on Twitter at Rookery_. I play a lot of games. I play a lot of MMOs. Right now I'm doing a playthrough of Final Fantasy IX. It's my very first time through the game ever, which has been so much fun. I've had no spoilers somehow in the 20-some years that it's been out. I know. So it's been a real blast, but we're of course also doing other content and looking forward to everything to come in our favorite MMOs.
Wicked. Fornex.
Hey, I'm Fornex. Hang on, I've got a button. There you go. Hey, I'm Fornex. I'm the Crichton Herald. I make content over on YouTube. If you're looking for the gear that was released with this patch and the other patch, there's a guide on my YouTube channel, which is the Crichton Herald or Fornex the Herald. Either of those will get you there. And yeah, all the lovely gear, including a showcase of the legendary gear, is up there as well. And I hope that Bobby approves of my content this evening. I'm kind of scared, but fingers crossed. I'll still be in the part of the program tomorrow. Anyway, yep.
Didn't say anything that would get you banned from.
Too late now.
Just break NDA randomly.
I will make you start paying me if I get banned. I'm just gonna let you know. That's it. I'm sending you the bill.
Okay. And finally, but not words. Bob. I was going to say Bob. It's Bob.
Oh my god. Last but by no means least. There you go.
He couldn't say but not least. He couldn't say it.
The words escaped my mind. I was like, I can't actually think about
say not
what do I
least.
say.
Last, but probably
I am a mental health therapist. I talk to people every day.
I don't remember.
I'm telling you, you have to come with the beard, and then he'll think you're a dwarf, and then everything
I'll
will
remember
be
you
fine.
then. Yeah, for sure.
Dwarf sexual, yes, definitely.
More sexual? What?
Dwarf sexual. That's your orientation. I have decided.
I mean,
yeah,
that's true.
Well,
close
it was
enough.
a good show, everybody.
There was a dwarf introduced in one of my favourite PvP games this week, which made me eternally happy. And I will only play that.
Cool.
Sorry.
You wanted to your outro.
I'm Best Boy Boots.
What's your dwarf name?
Probably Boots.
Just Boots. Boots
I mean,
and
they
beards.
have names. They have
Beards and
names.
boots.
Dwarves, right?
Beards and boots. We're talking about
Adventure striding big boots.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Adventure Riding Big Boots,
Damn.
World of Enders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Wicked.
And, yeah. Nice to see you
My
all.
Uncle Bobby.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
Oh, sad. You sound so.
Don't be sad. The epic
Boots, it was
and
really nice to
amazing
see you.
Boots of the Mountain that is a mountain.
I do like mountains.
Sorry?
I do like mountains.
Oh, there you go. That works.
Yeah.
Okay. Twitch.tv/JebroUni is where you can catch the stream live, where we'll be talking about the things we talked about at the end of the stream just now. The CM strike. With 2 members of Snow Crows next week. We will be back talking to them. Then we'll probably have a break for a week. We'll see how we go. Otherwise, YouTube, Spotify, Google, the Lightbringers Guild Wars 2 podcast. You can listen to us and watch us everywhere. Even in your bathroom. I'm not sure. Maybe, if you want to. Get your phone out.
You could.
It's modern day technology. And we'll see you next time. Come watch all the things. It's a great show. Love it. Video as well is available on Spotify. If you're driving to work, we'll definitely outlast your drive. Because the show is like 2.5 hours. So we'll see you next time. Hey, we used to go for 3.5 hours to 4 sometimes. I mean, in the beginning, I don't even know how we did that. Wild.
I didn't like it.
And on that note, Boots doesn't like the podcast. And we'll see you next time on the Lightbringers Guild Wars 2 podcast. Goodbye for now.